Great. Welcome back to the 24/7 O-Howard State Network. I'm your host with the most, Howard, and we're back from a quick break from our sponsors, who without this channel would not be possible. Hey guys, it's time to get a bit serious. We've got to talk about this Michigan cheating scandal and all the crazy stuff that's coming out about it. It's just this has got to be one of the most annoying and interesting at the same time sports story in years. Okay, so the latest news is that Stalions, this guy at the center of Michigan's cheating operation, has been fired, or well, he says he tendered his resignation, but we all know, right? The guy got axed. I had this from On3 on Twitter. Stalions, his attorney have released a statement to Athletic following his resignation amid Michigan sign stealing scandal. As he informed the school earlier today, Connor chose to resign because recent stories regarding his time with the University of Michigan have created a distraction for the team. He hopes his resignation will help the team and coaching staff focus on tomorrow's game and the remainder of the season. Connor also wants to make it clear that, to his knowledge, neither Coach Harbaugh nor any other coach or staff member told anyone to break any rules or were aware of improper conduct regarding the recent allegations of advanced scouting. What stories, Connor? You mean the one where you were spotted on Central Michigan's sideline wearing Ray-Bans that record when they were playing Michigan State earlier this year? Look, when this first came out, even I wasn't sure about it. I thought, this probably isn't that bad, or most likely a big nothing burger that's being blown out of proportion. And I certainly didn't think much would come of it. But I think I just might have been wrong. But this is such a rabbit hole. I just prefer really just to wait and see what the hell is going to happen. To me, it's clear what they did and punishment should be forthcoming. But apparently all 13 of the other Big Ten coaches had a meeting without Michigan, by the way, but with the Big Ten commissioner, the new one there, Tony Petitti, and they are well, according to reporting, demanding more immediate action from the league. Maybe later we'll get into what Joel Klatt has to say about it, which, has anyone been worse on this thing than Joel? Clearly there's a lot of money on the line here, especially for Fox, who just paid about $7 billion for a TV deal with the big. I wonder if they'll be asking for any of that back, should this blow up. But Mr. Klatt, there's towing the company line on this with a recent tweet, basically calling the rest of the Big Ten coaches jealous of Michigan's success, which, come on, man. Then he goes on to warn the Big Ten offices against unprecedented overreach. Joel there delivering a message from his bosses to the Big Ten leadership. Don't you dare do anything that might actually hold the cheaters up north accountable, is the message. Just pathetic, really pathetic on Joel's part. It's okay. So more on that soon. It's just all very enlightening to see how it's playing out. But for now, let's get to some injury talk, shall we? So as we all know by now, starting safety Latham Ransom went down with an undisclosed injury against Wisconsin. And, it's just like this defense has been so damn good. You start to wonder what that might mean for, arguably the best Ohio State defense that we've seen in a decade, maybe more. So it looks like Sonny Styles is going to be stepping in full time to that safety position. Sonny Styles, who started the first 7 games of the season at nickel, filled in at bandit for Ransom after the Arizona native's injury. Jordan Hancock, who had rotated with Styles in the nickel spot, occupied the slot coverage position on a more permanent basis as the Buckeyes are starting nickel against Wisconsin. Styles was asked about whether this would be the same configuration would be used going forward. He said, yeah, I think that's highly possible in his typical, rather terse style. Knowles gave another succinct response when asked a follow-up question on whether he'd be worried about having Styles at bandit and Hancock at nickel for the majority of defensive snaps going forward. No concerns. I think they have both proven themselves in a lot of different dimensions. Knowles said, so I don't have any concerns about it. His words seem to place a lot of faith in Styles, who is still just 18 years old. Can you believe it? And would be a freshman this season had he not enrolled at Ohio State following his junior year of high school. So that's the latest there. Let's all just pray to Sweet Mary, Mother of Baby Jesus, that Sonny does not go down, because then fellas, then we'll be left with Cam Martinez as our last line of defense. And my God, we all know how that goes. All right. Before we talk about the upcoming game against the mighty, how are you, Rutgers? Let's get a word from Donna with the weather on game day. Donna?
And thank you, Howie Bear. So let's have a look at the forecast for Saturday, where the Buckeyes will be facing off with my alma mater, the Knights of Rutgers. And, Howie, I have such fond memories of parties with the whole of the Rutgers football team. Anyway, we're not here for that. So, right, on Saturday, the Buckeyes will be kicking off at noon Eastern to a balmy November high 50s. Low 60 degrees at kickoff, and not a drop of rain in sight. Clear skies for what promises to be a total reckoning for my dear, dear Knights. And now it's back to you, Howie.
And thanks so much, Donna. An absolute peach. I'm sure sometime we'll get to reminisce about those nostalgic nights for you there in New Jersey. But for now, we have more pressing issues to attend to, and that is, let's welcome back in Summer. Summer, how are you?
It's almost the weekend. I'm just chilling over here. So
actually, before we get chopping it up about Rutgers, let's have a little change of plans and talk a little about our dear quarterback, Kyle McCord, or Honda McCord, as some of you have so taken to calling him. First of all, can we just stop it with the Honda McCord thing? It's stupid. You're not clever. You're not original. Stop repeating it as if you were the first one to ever come up with it. Okay. And besides, I guess this is supposed to be a put down of Kyle. But if you really think about it, a Honda Accord is like the picture of reliability. So it doesn't even make sense in the first place. My God, people. All right. So let's talk Kyle McCord. All right. So this is going to be a bit of a rant. Strap in and get ready. Let me just start by saying this. Kyle McCord is a good quarterback. Is he a great quarterback? No, he isn't. At least not yet. But my God, people, can you just let the damn man cook? Can you? Okay. A smart man once told me you can plant a seed in a man's mind, but you can't make it grow, or something like that. Well, allow me to plant a tiny Kyle McCord seed in your mind, and then you can decide whether you want to water the dang thing or not. The biggest complaint I hear about Kyle is it doesn't feel like he is improving. You're all like, angry here we are in week 8, and dang, Kyle still looks like the guy who trotted out there against IU. But let me just back up a moment first. For those of you who would dispute the claim that Kyle is a good quarterback, you don't win that Notre Dame game, you don't win that Penn State game, unless you are at the very least a good quarterback. And again, I feel you there with your angry face. Yeah, but Kyle basically threw a gift-wrapped interception and yada, yada, yada. Fine. But the point stands, the interception was dropped. Kyle then did make the throws that a good quarterback makes. The second and 10 to Marv, where Marv dove in between 3 defenders to bring it in, was a freaking dime. That's an NFL throw. There's no disputing it. The third 19 throw to Emeka was insane. It ranks right up there with JT to Marcus Baugh at Penn State. That was in either 2017 or 18. I forget honestly now. Down to the 1 freaking yard line, man, with time to run just 2 more plays. Okay. So I think we can all agree that those throws don't happen if you're bad at being a QB.
Howie, and I totally get it, but I don't think most people think Kyle is bad. It's more like you were just saying he isn't progressing as quickly as some Buckeye fans would like, right?
That's absolutely correct. And that's kind of what I want to get back to, but I just think it's important to at least acknowledge as a baseline that Kyle has all the tools of a maybe not top tier elite, but a very good QB that can win a natty.
Yes, correct.
So I think what worries me the most about Kyle is not his play, but that he'll actually start hearing and listening to these people like that who are just patently wrong by 2. But the kid is like 20, 21 years old, and I'm sure he's hearing it. If there's a knock on Kyle, it's that it seems like he is maybe the type that could let some of that stuff get to him and then start playing scared out there. And that would be the worst case scenario for him. Okay. So let's look at some stats for Kyle. Through 8 games now, Kyle has thrown for 2,163 yards total. In all of 2022, CJ Stroud threw for 368 yards, and that's including the playoff game where he went for 348 yards against Georgia. So to match CJ's productivity, Kyle would have to throw for just 194 yards in his remaining 4 games. He's currently averaging 270 a game out there. So he is well on track to meet and surpass CJ's 2022 productivity by just doing what he's doing. And look, we all know that total yards is not nearly the best measure of quality QB play, but I get this impression that most people criticizing Kyle would be surprised to find out just these total yardage numbers. even I was a bit shocked to see that Kyle could easily surpass CJ's 2022 numbers this year. So what is it? What is it about Kyle? I mean, we can look at Kyle's play, and I think even Kyle's most ardent defenders would agree that something seems off, something is missing, something's not right, right? And so I propose this to you, Donna, and all the Kyle doubters out there. It has been clear to me that Kyle has been injured since Notre Dame. Because if you watch Kyle this year, and I have watched every drop back of Kyle's probably twice this year, after the bye week, which was the week after the ND game, Kyle came out and his footwork was all messed up. And you'll notice that this is the first time people started commenting on Kyle's footwork, his throwing off his back foot, his poor drops, his not driving through his throws, and so on. And there's a reason for that. It's because it started there after the ND game, after Kyle sustained an ankle injury.
Interesting.
Okay. So I'm not going to go on and on about Kyle. This is already a bit of a rant. I think we'll have plenty of time to hash this out. Mostly what I would like to see is for Kyle to get healthy. Now, he banged that ankle up. Looks like pretty good at Wisconsin. Again, so he might be even worse for wear now. But I want to see Kyle of Notre Dame ankle health back, and then just for him to avoid carrying the same mistakes over to the next week.
And he's been pretty good, Tasha, right? I mean, this is just me, okay? But I feel like beside one thing, there is one thing, and that is he is just very loosey-goosey with the ball whenever he gets hit. It just squirts right out of there. And this is a huge but that's fixable, right?
Indeed, it is. And I imagine the coaches are all over him about that particular issue, because you're right about that. The only thing that has really made an appearance in multiple games is that fumbling when he gets hit thing, and that rue that needs to go like yesterday. All right. So there's lots more to discuss in the future about Mr. Kyle McCord, which, by the way, is the nickname I prefer for him after that ice cold comeback at ND. But in a moment, we're going to get into some Rutgers stuff. We'll be right back to the 24/7 O-Howard State Network.
We're coming for you, Rutgers.
Are you looking for a new home in the Dallas, Fort Worth area? TFC, as fifth-generation residents, the Snells know this city better than any other family, and they'd love to meet yours, whether you're coming or you're going. Trust Snell Realty, where your new home comes with 4 tickets to the Louis Tussauds Palace of Wax.
All right, we're back here at the 24/7 O-Howard State Network. Thank you for hanging out with us. And if you are enjoying yourself now, would be a good time to go ahead and click that subscribe button and like button, and that would really help us out. So thanks for that. I'm Howard, your host and Buckeye aficionado, much like yourself. And now we are going to get into the upcoming week's game, which is at the mighty Rutgers. It's an away game this Saturday at noon. This is not your typical Rutgers outfit. They're actually pretty good this year. They are already bowl eligible, sitting at 6-2. And they're a pretty good defensive outfit. This is from the 11 Warriors talking about their defense. Rutgers' strength lies in its defense, ranked number 9 nationally in total defense and number 13 in scoring defense. What has been the main factor behind the Scarlet Knights' success on defense? Rutgers limits big plays. It is one of only 2 teams in FBS football, along with Ohio State, to not yet allow a 40-yard play this season. It has one of the best red zone defenses in the country, allowing FBS opponents to score on just 66.7 of their trips. They're 5th lowest rate in the country per team rankings. There are a few weaknesses across the 3 levels. Linebacker's gone from a weakness to a strength, although the loss of starter Tyrone Powell for the season could be a significant blow. The secondary has been solid thanks to cornerback cornerstones Max Melton and Robert Longerbeam, and the addition of Minnesota transfer Flip Dixon at safety. The defensive line is deep, solid against the run, and while they don't have great sack numbers, put consistent pressure on opposing quarterbacks. You gotta love those names, don't you? It was Flip Dixon and Robert Longerbeam, the cornerback.
That shit. Flip Dixon. Now that's a name, boy.
Did you know good old Flip from your college days back in Piscataway, Donna?
I didn't, but I met many like him.
Let's just stop you there.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. So the problem with Rutgers, as we know, is not their defense, but rather their putrid offense, which has long been the bane of Rutgers' existence. Just trying to figure out how to get that football to move itself. Well, before we get to that, actually, I wanted to mention that our breakthrough transfer cornerback, Davidson Igbenoghen, he actually has a brother who also starts at cornerback, but for Rutgers. His brother is Desmond Igbenoghen. So as a parent myself, I can imagine the pride that you must feel seeing both of your kids playing at such high levels. And I'm sure for both brothers, this is a special moment. This, again, from 11 Warriors regarding the Rutgers brother. Desmond has been solid with one extraordinary game against Michigan State in which he had 4 tackles for loss and forced a key fumble. He spoke briefly about the matchup with local reporters, saying they are excited for each other, that they are participating in a big game that happens to be against each other. Davidson Igbinoza and Desmond Igbinoza, brothers, both from the New Jersey area. Davidson was actually committed to Rutgers, or a bit until he received an offer from the SEC. He wanted to play down there, but as fate would have it here, both brothers are. So let's get back quickly to Rutgers offense. They are simply not going to move the ball on this stout Buckeyes defense. Well, I mean, not to jinx them because weirder things have happened, but in terms of offense, Rutgers sits at the bottom half of nearly every category. 113th in yards per game, 76th in points per game, 83rd in red zone scoring. Just not very good. Let's bring in our good friend Denny to talk some Buckeyes football. Denny, how's it going?
O-H, Howie, my man. All is good in the hood. How's it the 614?
It's good here. The 614, as you say. So the Buckeyes have Rutgers on the docket for Saturday. Not a good team, but not a bad one either. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, look, Rutgers is a weird one here. The Fighting Chianos only have 2 losses. Honestly, I'm a bit wary going into this one. If you know what I mean, I just have if there's anything, it's just that I have this supreme confidence in the Silver Bullets. Like, they're just playing well, and it's a joy to watch. It just feels good to not have to sit there with your hands over your eyes, peeking through your fingers every time the other team gets the ball with a chance to tie or take the lead. So
I know what you mean. It just feels different this year. It's exciting. For example, there are multiple times points in games this season where I thought to myself, if we can just get a 2-score lead, this thing is all but over.
Exactly.
So let's talk Buckeyes offense. I don't know if this is going to be borne out because you can never tell with Ryan Day, but Emeka is supposedly healthy and will maybe play this week. And if that happens, that will mark only the 4th time this year that all 3 stars and double E, Maserati Marv, have been on the same field this year. And most of those were in the first quarter of the season where the O-line was struggling. Kyle was still technically in a quarterback battle. It's kind of amazing to think what this offense can be now with all the heavy hitters back.
And Stover, our man Stover, we can't forget about him, even though he didn't get any targets at Wisconsin. That guy is, if not for Brock Bowers, the best tight end in the country. I don't think there's much arguing that now. So
yeah.
But I'm with you on this one. I mean, there's been quite a bit of consternation about this offense, but just think about just how banged up these guys have been. I mean, it's really amazing when you think about it that we could be sitting here at 8-0. Of course, Marv is just a phenom, but still, Ryan Day, what a freaking genius we have. I don't care who you are to have 3 of the top 5 of your players perpetually sidelined and still manage to get us here to 8 wins. It's well, we both know he won't get it, but it's worthy of Big Coach of the Year for sure.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. But there have been, some questions about this offense, and look, rightly so, especially when you look at that Maryland first half,
yes,
especially the run game, which got a big boon this past week at Wisconsin with the return of Henderson. I mean, just how good is that guy? I mean, of course, when he is on, he's just so damn good, and he hits holes and he makes opposing offenses pay for the slightest mistake. That's what he brings. It's missing when he's not there. What did you think of Trey's return performance this past week, Denny?
My God, that guy's good. I think we just forgot what we truly have sitting there in their field. That guy is a Formula One race car, and he's just been hurt. His whole career has been mired by injury. And I don't know if you saw he called out Notre Dame traded for a cheap shot. It was their number 8 all over whatever. The one with the big hair, apparently bushwhacked Trey in the pile. So
yeah, I did. And look with Trey, and this might be cap, like the kids are saying, big cap. But look, for me, I think with Trey, and by the way, the cheap shot was why Trey missed 4 games. I think it was, but I'm saying that with him playing against Penn State, I honestly don't even think that game is close. Now don't get me wrong, because
maybe I'm pretty skeptical because look, it's still not like we had some sort of explosion of points against Wisconsin. So, yeah, I don't know if we would have seen it against Penn State, but
And I totally get that. And like I was saying, don't get me wrong, because Luke Mayan, who is now out of the rest of the season, by the way, and Chip, I honestly think did a fine job, but I just think now that Trey, when he will, if you remember, Chop just could not get outside on Penn State's defense.
yeah, we're missing that, definitely.
And so I think naturally that this discussion brings us to the O-line. It's a line that has taken, well, first of all, lost a lot having sent those two big tackles to the draft. Both of those guys, and Luke Whipper, who was a bit of surprise, but who also took off to the NFL. And so this line has taken a while to gel. Just a fact. And you also wonder how the transfer tackle, Simmons, who came up from FCS, I believe you have this sort of hodgepodge of players now. And it's just, we are have been waiting for them to come together as a unit. Do you feel like that's happening?
I think it is. Look, this was never going to be easy to replace those three key pieces on the offensive line. Especially look at what we did have on that line. I mean, just two gargantuan tackles. One of them is like an actual freaking giant in the one Jones in Paris, who was just so good. So I'm optimistic. I really am just really optimistic that this group is turning a corner. And I think you mentioned earlier this, but Trey, it feels like he is the perfect guy to be running behind this line right now. And I say that because that guy, he only needs just the teeniest little tiny hole to slip through and boom, 60 yards. See ya!
No doubt.
And also, I don't know if you have noticed this, Howard, but since I think it was Purdue or maybe even the last half of Maryland, but really Purdue, yeah, Day has whoever, but I think mostly Day has moved away from that stretch zone play, and they're doing now some really interesting stuff, right? Like we're getting X-Man on that end around off of orbit motion, or like faking that handoff, and those zone blocks now become down blocks in an X. Instead of taking the handoff, does a kick out block for Trey coming back the other way and sort of like that counter motion. And then the genius of all of that is that the linebackers, when we fake that handoff to the other guy, the back there or the motion guy, those linebackers are forced to stay home and respect those. And so, this is the kind of offensive scheming that Buckeye fans have been dying to see now, out of doubt.
Ooh, oh my God. You couldn't be more right, my friend. You just love to see it.
Yeah. So I'm just so stoked to see what happens when this all comes together. These run concepts get married with the pass, and we have Trey back and Mecca back, and Marv is just out of this world. If Kyle can just keep getting better, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah. Summer and I spoke in an earlier segment about Kyle McCord. I went on a bit of a rant there with this Honda McCord. Very funny thing. And I'm just like, I'm not really feeling all the criticism for him. And I have all sorts of thoughts on Kyle that I don't want to rehash, but just give me just 30 seconds on your impressions of Kyle, because I really do. I value your opinion there.
Yeah. Look, I get the criticism. I really do get the critics. Well, let me just say the valid criticism for Kyle. I think he leaves people legitimately wondering, how can a guy be so good in some spots and just legit bad in others? My brother was talking to him, and he's very much your typical watch on Saturday, reads a couple articles a week, Buckeyes fan. And I think people like my brother are just so used to seeing this insane succession of quarterbacks going on the last, 20 years really, since Krenzel. And Kyle is just a minor step, not a huge step, but a minor step down from that level. And you can tell that he has to work just that much more to get to that level. And if you want my honest opinion on whether he can do it, I honestly do not know. But I will say this, whether he can take that leap or not, if he just improves at a normal pace, which, by the way, I don't know if this is coach speak or not, but Day has said that Kyle is on that pace, and he limits turnovers, particularly those fumbles. He is 100% good enough to lead this team to a ship.
Agreed. Well, all right, just before we get out of here, let's hear your prediction for, and we I didn't even really talk about them, but let's hear what you're thinking on our boys versus Rutgers.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to be worried about this game for some reason, and I just am not in the slightest, because, honestly, let's be honest here. Rutgers will be lucky to score 10 points. I'm going to become one of those defense snobs, or actually I have already, and I'm just convinced that score on this defense, you're going to have to come with a lot more than what Rutgers got, The only thing that might maybe the tiniest question mark around it is how the defense handles running QB, which Rutgers, it's not like Trevor Lawrence we're talking about here, but he's a pretty decent runner. But I just think even that's going to get shut down. The boys are going to be ready for it.
So final score prediction.
Final score? Yeah, okay, goes what? I think the spread is 19 or somewhere around there. It's going to be a beautiful day. No weather to worry about in the 50s. So here, I'll give you two. If Emeka plays, 49-10, and if he is still out, let's go 47-10. That's my final answer, Howard.
Very good. Very good. I don't think I'm as optimistic as you on the offensive side, but I would be shocked if the Knights even put up 2 scores. So for me, I'll go 35-3. Or you know what? I'm going to call it. This is the week that the defense gets their shutout. 35-0. A big Whataburger for the Rutgers homecoming. Is it their homecoming? Who knows? Who cares?
All right. Well, thanks for having me on, and you have a good one, buddy.
Yeah, you too, bud. Thanks for joining us once again, Denny Sahan.
Thank you, Denny. Wow, I love having Denny on. He's always bringing that fire,
Indeed. Indeed he is. All right, so we're almost out of here, but before we do, let's take a little walk down memory lane with this Buckeye win. All right, so this Buckeye win featured these 3 things. Can you guess which Buckeye win it is? Number 1, this Buckeye win was in Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis at the Big Ten Conference Championship game. Number 2, this Buckeye win featured a sputtering offense in the first half where Justin Fields finished just 12 of 27 for 114 yards and a blistering QBR of 33.3. And finally, number 3, I won't say who, but this Buckeye win featured a running back who went off in the second half and finished with 331 yards, averaging 11.1 yards a carry, 2 scores, and a long of 65 yards.
Oh, I know this one. Yeah. This one also is, I believe, the origin of one of the best memes ever, I think, right?
Oh, that's right. Where Trey gives that devilish grin to the camera.
Oh my God, that is so good. Our boy Trey Sermon.
I think, yeah, that's there where that happens. That is so good.
Okay, so that was against Northwestern, right?
That's correct. This Buckeye win was December 19th, 2020, where the Buckeyes vanquished the Wildcats of Northwestern by a score of 22-10, and Trey Sermon, who was on a 3-game tear every bit as good as Zeke's from 2014, simply took over that game.
That boy was on a tear, I swear.
All right, then that'll do it for us. Thanks for sticking around. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, then again, 1 share, 1 subscribe. All of them are free, and any of them are much appreciated. Join us next time here on the 24/7 O-Howard State Network. For summer, I'm your host, Howard. Enjoy the beatdown of Rutgers on Saturday, and go Bucks.
This show is a production of a small, dedicated team of Ohio State fans for Ohio State fans. Your support is welcome. Share, like, comment, subscribe, and rate.